So this first image right here, public speaking for authors, I wanted to bring this image to you and ask you first off for some participation. That's why I'm so eager to see your faces, because I want you to raise your hand. If you can just share with me, what is it that you think of when you see this image in front of you? And there are no wrong answers. So just give me, raise your hand and share with me what you're thinking. Paul.
Having been rock climbing, I think her dress would get caught.
So maybe inappropriate attire for the task.
There we go.
Oh yeah. Kristen, how about you?
I'm thinking she's a bit on the crazy side.
What
First
tells
of
you
all,
she's-
there's no way I would rock climb, and second, yeah, that dress is not the best choice.
Yeah, what do you think this dress is about? Like, what's the significance of the dress?
I'm thinking runaway bride.
Yeah, right? I mean, it kind of gave me that impression too. All right, Kelly.
I'm just thinking she's doing what she thinks she's supposed to do, and it is hard as heck, but she's doing it and she's going to make it to that top. It kind of reminds me of my life right now, actually, not the dress so much, but you know, doing what she has to do.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Kelly. Was there one more? I saw somebody's hand go up, but. Okay. The reason I wanted to show you this is to really highlight a metaphor, if you will. This idea, this image, is thought of differently for each of us. Each of us comes up with the meaning of this image, and that's what public speaking is all about, is sharing wisdom. It's sharing what the meaning is of what you're talking about. It is not, what public speaking is not, is sharing information. Now, there might be information that we're giving or sharing inside of the wisdom, but I want to kind of dispel the myth that you have to be all things to all people when you're public speaking. It's just not the case. And public speaking is a really great way to amplify your impact. So if you have, 60 people in front of you, you've just said something that magnifies it, amplifies it by 60, and even beyond that, because if you hear something or you see something that you really were touched by, you might tell your spouse or your friend or your parent, and so the amplification of speaking is we don't know how much we could really accomplish or do inside of the speaking. And that's not to scare you. In fact, I show this image of myself because it shows me in front of an audience speaking, and I've done and gotten to do a lot of things with speaking, but I will say I started in a place where I could not speak. I was terrified of it. And the first few speeches I did, I could not remember at all. It was an out of body experience. Raise your hand if you've had an experience that's similar. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Yep. It's not comfortable. It's awful. I want you to know that there is a path that you can take. It doesn't have to be as long as mine, which is probably about 25, 30 years of trying to figure this out. It doesn't have to take that long, and you can actually remember, be really present in what you're saying, and enjoy it. That's what I want for you. I want for anyone who takes this on to feel like they're actually just talking with you like you're in their living room, almost like tonight. So it can look a ton of different ways. You've seen really high-powered speakers, and you've seen, now me sitting in a chair speaking with you over Zoom. There is no real definition. You get to create it for yourself. So even though I'm going to show you some things and tell you some things tonight that might resonate and you might want to do, just keep in mind, it's not the right way to do it. It's a way to do it. So there's a challenge that you're going to be faced with, and without speaking, it's that you're the best kept secret. Your books are the best kept secret. So speaking can really help with getting the word out there, getting exposure, and just getting more people to know about what's out there, what's possible, and what's available to them. Now, I'm showing you this image because I want you to know that your PowerPoints don't have to be boring. I love including animals and nature in my PowerPoint because it's different, it's fun. And this slide right here with the ostrich on it, it has nothing to do with an ostrich. But I just love the image so much. I'm like, you know what? I want this image in my slide deck. The 80% is really just to share with you just for a second that speaking for me in my business has basically fueled or fed about 80% of the work I do. And my business goes beyond writing to also coaching and speaking and training. So you can see how having different modalities and being able to run a business with speaking being kind of a feeder is really helpful. I might get a lead or asked to do a proposal 5 years from now, because of somebody that saw me today. So you just never know where it could go, but it's the idea of just not constantly getting out there, but just kind of making the effort to always be sharing with others what you're up to. Another image here I love, this is all about this presentation is about rising above the 3 biggest challenges that I see out there regarding speaking. First off, some of us don't have a positive image. So there isn't this idea in their head about how this could go well. It's really all like, it could go bad. And that's all that we're focused on. And I want to share with you that, a positive vision could exist for you. You're not sure where to start. I'm going to give you a path tonight for how to put a presentation together. Again, this is one way to do it. And it's freed me to be able to remember what I'm saying in the moment and to be able to be with my audience. And then waiting for more confidence, it just doesn't happen. We have to step into a place where we're not comfortable and not confident in order to do things that we've never done before. So let's get started. The no positive vision exists. This woman, Diane Amundsen, she's in Winona, Minnesota. About 12 years ago, so in 2010, I saw her speak at it was a women's leadership conference, and it was a breakout session. And she was speaking to a group of maybe 20 people. The way that she showed up that night was authentic and real, and she was having fun, and she was making jokes, and I looked at her and I thought to myself, she has the coolest job I have ever seen. Like, she just goes out there and talks to people, uplifts them, gives them some ideas on how to do what, different things. And she looked like she was genuinely enjoying it. That's when my positive vision really was created. Because before that, when I would see a public speaker, I didn't really connect with them. I always felt like they're famous. They're talking to thousands of people. Like, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't even desire that much attention. But when I saw her, I thought, ooh, I have something to say. I could really do this. So I want you to think about that for yourself. And one of the things that does come up often is this idea of, well, I wouldn't even know what to talk about. I'm not, when we think about ourselves, we often don't give ourselves credit for being an expert in anything. So how would I go out there and make a stand and talk about something and develop a platform and do all it? It's overwhelming to think about. I don't know enough. That's the first thing that kind of goes through our mind is, how am I going to know enough to be able to talk on a topic and feel like an expert? Well, if you craft your presentation in advance, which I hope you do, because, I don't know anybody that can just spontaneously talk for an hour. If you're crafting your message, you get to choose what you say. You get to choose what you come up with. So you have these parameters or boundaries, if you will, for what it is that you're creating. Your message is something you have control over and freedom to create in advance. So when you go to deliver it, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know your message. Raise your hand if you're with me. All right, love it. Now this guy is a high-powered speaker. I met him in California. I was at some conference, and I was early in my career. And I wouldn't even say it was a career at that point. It was just like, I want to speak. And he sat down at my table, and I think he must have asked me, what I speak about. And I was really hesitant and full of self-doubt. And he looked at me and he said this: if what you talk about and what you share with your audience could change one person's life, would it be worth the possible embarrassment that you might endure? And no question, I thought, yeah, it would be totally worth it. I'll embarrass myself all day long if it could help somebody. Putting it in real terms, embarrassment is not a high enough cost for me to not do this. I felt a lot of purpose when he said that. And I felt all of a sudden that I have something to really share with my audience, and the audience is really important to me. And it shifted from me being worried about myself to me really wanting to serve my audience. And that shift is extremely important when you think about your relationship with your audience, your relationship with public speaking. If you have any nerves at all with public speaking, being able to shift to your audience and caring about what they want and what you can offer them, that's going to make all the difference for you. All right, raise your hand if you could share with me, how does this image represent what is possible for you in the context of speaking? All right, there's Evelyn, go ahead.
Right, when you come into a room of an audience that you're not familiar with, it's kind of like a scary thing. And it just kind of like the lion. But then if you can lessen your own tension and get into your topic, you can win the audience over and it doesn't become scary anymore. But if you can get them to participate with your thought, and that, I find that can be helpful. So I think that's what that reminds me of, this thawing out when you come in, because when you come in, you're tense and you're nervous till the moment where you're there, and then you connect with the audience, and that can be kind of fun.
Lovely. So Evelyn, do you do anything specifically to kind of bring those nerves, calm them down at that time?
Well, for me, the secret is to be well prepared. I usually have notes with me because I can get easily distracted and my mind then goes off with a distraction and I lose my thread. But if I have my notes right there, and I'd sometimes have them in big letters so I can just glance and see it, and it doesn't take a lot to get me going again.
Beautiful.
I do enjoy speaking, so maybe that
Oh,
helps.
good. I love that. Fantastic. Well, let's keep going. I'm going to have another opportunity for us to not do breakouts, but to have a conversation. The second challenge I mentioned is you're not sure where to start. And this is going to more of the process, the preparation process for public speaking. This can be quite intimidating, especially if you're a writer, I'm guessing, because you already have a writing process that might work for you, but maybe speaking, the process looks different. So here's a process that could work. First off, what are we doing this for? Any sort of public speaking, the first thing we have to think in our minds is, what does that audience want from us? Because they're tuned into what is in it for me. And I don't mean that in a selfish or derogatory way. I mean that in a just, we're filtering constantly the information that's coming at us. How does the audience filter to get the information they need? Well, they're asking this question, what's in it for me? So we have to, as we think about the presentation that we create, we really have to think about, how does our audience need to hear the message? What is it they want from me, from this topic? What are the challenges? One of the best things that you can do is really address their top 3 challenges. So if you're ever in doubt and you're talking to someone, an audience type, you might really get clear on what it is that they're struggling with. Now, this 7 C's framework I'm going to give to you as being a participant tonight. It'll be in your follow-up if you fill out a form that I'm going to ask you to fill out. But this 7 C's is a framework that I created after doing, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 presentations and spending 20+ hours trying to prepare these presentations. I was like, I can't have a public speaking career if it takes me 20 hours to prepare a presentation. It's just not feasible. So this framework is something I came up with after watching a multitude of presentations, both in person and virtually, online, YouTube, TED Talks. I found basically the 7 pieces that you can put together to make a successful presentation. And this gives you freedom inside, but the framework will kind of keep you, give you just an overview, a storyboard, if you will, to start with. So this framework, again, is not necessarily the right way, it's a way. So if you get into it and you're like, this doesn't really work for me, find a way to create a framework for yourself that does work. Incidentally, you may never write your entire speech. Okay? If you're speaking, I'm going to give you permission to not have to write it. You do not have to write a full speech out. You could create talking points for yourself and go from there. It really is up to you how you create a confidence boosting process for yourself. All right. In the 7 C's, I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, but again, you're going to have this after this presentation. I'll send it to you. So you'll have all these pieces and you'll have all the questions that go along with. But the critical point is the very first thing you want to create as a presenter. So you have your audience in mind, and then you have to think to yourself, what's one thing that if they were asked 2 weeks from now, what is it that Colin presented on, that they would say, oh, it was all about this. And that is the critical point. Everything in your presentation should point to this one idea. And for my presentation tonight, it's amplify your impact. So everything I'm creating and doing tonight is to really amplify your impact. The second piece, this is like when you show up to present, find something that can captivate the audience. I use the image tonight to do that. It's a way to disrupt you from your everyday noise, things that are happening in your life. If you can come in and captivate with a story or a statistic, or some people can do jokes, I can't do jokes that easily, but I chose to do image because I love imagery. I love conversations and I love interaction. If you like interaction and you want your audience to be a part of your presentation, you'll want to encourage them to talk within the first 10 minutes, okay? So something like this might be really useful for your presentations. The whole idea being grab their attention, have it be something that kind of leads into your main point. Connecting is your opportunity to introduce yourself if you haven't been introduced. This is where I showed a picture of myself and I said, I haven't always been confident in speaking. I'm relating to you. This is your chance to connect. So relate with your audience. This is not about building credibility. You already have credibility because you have been asked to speak. So this is about connecting. And if you could share your reason why are you speaking tonight? Why do you care? Why? So your audience is going to be sitting there kind of asking these questions, being skeptical about your intentions. And if you can share with them why you're up to this, why this matters to you, it'll ease their skepticism and then they can start to trust and really listen to you. All right, consensus, this is about asking your audience to come along with you. And in presentations like in business, I always see the agenda slide. The agenda slide is kind of like this idea of the agenda is more telling. It's like, we're going to do this, this, and this, and I'm telling you this is what we're up to. And I'm not a fan of agenda slides. I know sometimes they have a purpose, but I'd rather have everybody come together in consensus for a topic. So, getting people involved in where are we headed? What is this? Why is this important? This might be an opportunity to bring a conversation to the forefront. Often when I talk about confidence with audiences, sometimes I'll just have everybody come together to define what confidence means. So we'll whiteboard it and we'll come up with a definition that the audience created around confidence. So something like that can be really helpful in getting everybody to understand, like, what is it we're talking about tonight? The core is the main body of the presentation. So I call it the core because it's a C and I wanted 7 C's. The core is really great if you can have 3 of something. So I share with you tonight the 3 biggest challenges. You might say the past, present, and future is what I want to share with my audience. That's 3 pieces. That's a structure that you can share. It makes it easy for you to remember. It makes it easy for the audience to digest. So thinking in terms of 3, and it could be a bucket. It could be your favorite something. It could be the most important something, but having 3 parts is really a great way to go. Commitment, this is the piece that a lot of speakers leave out, and it's just a placeholder for thinking about what is it you want your audience to do as a result of talking with them. So you've just spent, maybe an hour with them. What is it you want them to do as a result? And you're going to see my commitment section in just a little bit. It's basically, I'm going to ask you to fill out a form. In return for your information, I'm going to give you the 7 C's worksheet and the 7 C's document. And I don't spam. I barely even email. So don't worry about that part. But my attempt to be connected with you, like long after this presentation is over, I might think, hey, I wanted to email that Jean. Jean was talking about this girl that stood up to a dog, and I wanted to share something with her, and I want to connect with you long after this presentation's over. So that's my way of doing it. And you'll see that coming soon. Now, the last piece is conclusion. Now, this seems simple enough, but the conclusion can be kind of intimidating. And I'll make a suggestion. Basically, the conclusion is your opportunity to make it feel complete. I often like to have the audience share at the end what they're taking away. That's a really great way to kind of wrap things up and to hear from them. So you get a little bit of feedback as to what really was having an impact. And it takes some pressure off of you to come up with some, grand close story. But closing stories are amazing if you can come up with something that connects with your critical point. Okay, this is the 7 C's worksheet I was telling you about. This is what you're going to get. Here's why I put it in a format like this. This format has the 7 parts in basically little blocks that you can draw in. You could draw images. If you're a visual person, that might be easier and faster for you to communicate what it is that you're talking about in that captivate section. Actually, it would be really helpful if you did have images to communicate your main points, because then what you truly are doing is building a visual pathway for your brain to remember what you're talking about. And just imagine if you had 7 images that you remembered, you talked about, and that would take, an hour's time. It would be a lot easier to remember than if you were trying to remember paragraphs, so this whole writing thing, I am a fan of writing your speech out if it's helpful to you to get your ideas on paper, if it's helpful for you to kind of sort through what it is that you think. But as soon as you get it written, I want you to walk away from it and start with bullet points or images or some other way of capturing what it is that you know. Because if you spend too much time with the written word, you will end up memorizing it, and then you won't be able to be present with your audience, and it can cause more anxiety, and it can also cause you to forget in the moment and then not be able to get back on track. Have you been there before? Raise your hand. Yeah, I've done. Yep, it's one of those things where, like, we're not really taught how to prepare for a presentation, so we try the things that we're used to, and they don't necessarily work, because in a presentation, things are happening in a dynamic format. Everything's kind of in an abstract fashion. You got to be on the right side of your brain. You got to be able to roll with the punches when something doesn't work the way that you thought it would. And you've seen an example of that tonight. Hopefully you don't walk away thinking, man, she was not a professional. There are times when, everything goes smooth, and then there are times when you got to roll with it. I do have another image. I'm not going to have you break out though, because I don't want to lose you. And so this question, how does this image represent where you are headed? So I'd love to hear from, 2 or 3 of you. Where are you headed? And does this image help you come up with any ideas for that? And I'm thinking, of course, in terms of speaking. Raise your hand when you've got a thought you'd like to share. Kelly.
There we go. When I see it, it makes me think, you've got the trees, you've got her swimming on a road, she's got a big smile. The last 18 months have been, we're talking about our new normal. I kind of hate to use that phrase, but nothing is as it should be, but yet she's got a smile on her face and she's moving forward. And Sarah, something you said about memorizing, I generally memorize my intro and my close.
Oh, nice.
But then I like to keep it very conversational in the middle, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's a really great way to do it.
They want you to be relatable. And to your point too, nothing ever goes as planned. There's going to be hiccups and bumps or fish in the road, like this picture. So it's just keep smiling and, stay in your lane, do your job, and it'll all work out.
Nice. Are you doing some speaking, Kelly?
that is what I do for a living. I am a
Oh,
professional
awesome.
speaker.
So you,
It's really fun to sit in on this tonight.
oh, good, good. Well,
Thanks.
thanks for sharing. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kelly Pratt.
I had the same reaction as K2 above me. That was what I called my assistant when his name was Kelly. We called him K2. But the other reaction I have to this is about owning your power. I mean, look at the power in this woman's arms. And didn't you just see her smile the first thing when you looked at that? That's what really drew me in. And, you know, as far as like what Kelly said about the notes and everything, I remember going to a workshop about 5 or 6 years ago, Sarah, about speaking, and she was making me put write my speech out on little cards, you know, write the whole thing out. And I really was terrible.
Oh,
But then I took something called the Colby Index, which is what I now use with my clients. And I'm a quick start on that. And one of the things it says, do wait till the last minute. Don't write out your speeches ahead of time. I mean, those were specific things because
Wow.
that's how I roll. And so what your advice to us is, I love it. Write out your stuff, practice, practice, practice. That's how you figure it out. But then you have to do whatever you have to do to be comfortable in the moment, right? And how I do my best work may not be how Kelly Ratty, is that your last name, does her best work, right?
that's right. That's right. I've been working with individuals for years now on public speaking, and what makes one person feel really confident can destroy the confidence in another person. So it's really important to really, you know, listen to your instincts on how this process needs to unfold for yourself.
Exactly. Thank you. This is really, really
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Phyllis.
This reminds me of when I was in college and I was taking a swimming class. And the most difficult stroke for me was the breaststroke, which she's doing. And somewhere as I heard, if you could sit down and get it in your head, you could do it. So I sat down every day, I don't know for how long, and I would just close my eyes and I made myself do the breaststroke in my head. And then eventually when I got into the water, I could do the breaststroke. And it turned out to be my best stroke of all the strokes we were doing. And it reminds me of so many people don't plan ahead. We don't have in our heads what we want or written it down somewheres. But even in her case, she knows where she's going. She's got a straight line. She's not out in the ocean swimming around and going in circles. She's got a plan. She's headed down the road and she's got a goal. And that's what I had when I was in college. I had a goal to do the breaststroke and I did it. And now I have a goal to be an author and to be a public speaker, and I'll do it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Phyllis. Super exciting. And yeah, it goes to the power of the mind and the visualization. And we don't even think about visualizing our presentation and what the audience will do and how they will react and how we'll feel. And we could benefit greatly from doing that sort of visualization, even for speaking. So thank you. All right, third challenge, waiting for more confidence. Like I said, we're not going to get it by waiting. There is this thing called the confidence gap. And what that is a space between where you are now and where you want to be. All right, where you are now and where you want to be is a middle space called the confidence gap, where you're not going to feel absolutely confident. You're going to feel maybe some nerves, some anxiety, some all kinds of feelings, even excitement about doing something new, and that's okay. And that's totally expected. So just making sure that you understand, it might take a little time to get confident too. There are certain things you might master right away. Like I can say, you know, right away I mastered eye contact, but gestures, man, took me a little while. And remembering what I was going to say took me a little while, but there are certain things you can check off the list and you can say, oh, okay, I'm getting this. It's like riding a bike. You're not going to get it all in one shot. we talked about purpose a little bit earlier. This is, what is it that you're all about? Why speak? When things get tough, when things get hard, going back to your purpose. What is the purpose? Finding something greater than yourself to hang that hat on, to be able to say, you know what, even though tonight was really difficult, even though tonight didn't go as planned, I'm going to stay the course and I'm going to keep working on this because it's so important to me. And guess what? Where you find purpose, you find joy. So keep at it. Phyllis alluded to some of the, and even Evelyn talked a little bit about some things you can do to boost your confidence. Evelyn mentioned getting there early and, kind of meeting some people, getting yourself acquainted with the space, and just getting yourself to calm at the very beginning. And Phyllis with the visualization, those are two great tips for boosting your confidence. A few others: recognizing exhilaration instead of nerves or fear. So our brains compute or feel exhilaration in the same way that we feel fear. And often we just go right to labeling it as fear. I'm scared to death. But there's a possibility you're actually really exhilarated and excited and wanting to do what you're up to. So I like to, instead of saying, oh, I'm really nervous, I like to say I'm really excited, because that little shift in verbiage tricks my brain and makes me think, oh yeah, I'm not that scared. I'm actually just really amped up because I'm, I want to be good. I want to be with these people and I want to do a good job. Taking deep breaths is another confidence booster. This is going to slow your stress response and tell your body that this is not a fear. This is not fight or flight time. This is actually something you want to lean into and be with, and that you're confident and comfortable. So taking deep, slow breaths is really helpful. And then laugh at yourself. I do this all the time because as soon as I think that I'm cool and I got this all figured out, something happens and I have to just go with it and I have to laugh at myself. And that is the best way to do it for me, because the audience goes, oh, we're not going to take ourselves too seriously tonight. We're going to have a good time. And that helps me get through so much in the way of perfectionism and wanting to do right by you. All right. I'm going to test your chat skills. So in the chat box, I would love for you to answer this question. How does this image represent what you are being dared to do? So go ahead and put your answer in the chat box. Couldn't find my chat box for a minute. All right, where are we? My support system is behind me and I have nothing to fear. Awesome. The wolf, I hope that little girl doesn't hit me with those skates. Nice. Becoming authentic at social media, being real with my fans. Awesome. Have a good time despite the potential for problems. Yeah, absolutely. I can have strange friends. Ron, that's awesome. To face the unknown when ice skating on thin ice when I don't know how to skate. You guys are a bunch of jokesters. I love it. Partner with others who are strong. I'm skipping some. Dare I bring up this topic, Evelyn? The first thing I thought of when I saw this was to get out of my comfort zone. Yes, Anne. Anything specific, Anne, that you're gonna do to get out of your comfort zone?
I was just thinking that, the skating thing, like I can't skate. really well. So to just not think about that and not think about what I can't do, but when I'm speaking, think about more what I can do.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully you've seen some things tonight that you go, oh, I've never thought about maybe having images be a conversation starter, or using provocative images that kind of bring up different ideas. You can do this any way you want. You can, I mean, you have the freedom to be the kind of speaker that you want to be. You don't have to be like anybody else. Thanks, Kelly. All right, I am going to keep going. I'm going to read your chats though in just a little bit. I'm going to read them to myself. I want to get through this so we can have question and answer. So this is just a slide to let you know and to share with you that I did create a confidence coaching card deck for those that are stepping out of their comfort zone into something they haven't done before. There's questions that come up, there's habits that we have to reform. So this deck is a great way to kind of help yourself through that or help others. These are the 2 books I wrote with the help of Ann Obbitz. Oh my gosh, I could have never done this without her. Talk about somebody who knows everybody that you need to know. I was like, I don't have an editor. I got an editor for you. Yeah. The confidence to speak is all about really this idea that it's not a fear of public speaking. It's many fears of public speaking. So I wrote this book about the fears of public speaking and how to overcome those. And then this book is really the how-to. It's kind of the 7 C's framework on steroids. It's how to create a presentation from start to finish. And those are those links to buy those are in your PowerPoint notes if that's of interest. And then last but not least, I'm gonna want you to fill out this form, and might need some help figuring that out. The form, I have a link, so I'm gonna try this. The link is in the notes, but not all of you have the notes, I'm guessing. So I'm gonna try to get at it. You should see my screen right now. I have three monitors, and I'm not able to. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna close this down. That's what I'm gonna do.
Sarah, it looks like Paul just posted the link in the chat.
Oh, that's awesome. To the form. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Because this is so strange with the 3 screens, having a different view than I'm used to. But anyway, that form is going to allow you to fill out a little bit of information about yourself, and then I'll be able to send you the 7 C's worksheet and other tools and stay connected with you long after this presentation. Now, I would love to just get a handful of people to raise their hand, maybe some people that haven't spoken up. What is something you're taking away from today's presentation? Something that you think you'll use in the future? Don't get quiet on me now. Oh, you're filling out the form. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah,
I'll stick one in for you, Sarah.
Yeah,
Something you said very much at the beginning was kind of the point of public speaking, which I hadn't really thought about before, but it's sharing wisdom and meaning, not necessarily sharing information. I mean, we have other sources for sharing information. So I really like that. That's going to shape how I speak in the future, definitely.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it. Thanks, Paul. Mary, you had your hand up, right?
Yeah. It helped me think about like not what I'm going to say. I mean, I'm going to have an introduction. I'm going to have a closing, but in the middle, involving the audience, and like in the classroom, they call it flipping the classroom, but you can flip it to the audience too, and then have them speak as well. So I'm going to think about how to maybe do that.
Absolutely. And,
Thank you.
yeah, Mary, I didn't prepare Jennifer for the breakouts tonight, so that is on me. But you can do this very easily on Zoom when things are working well. So give it a try on Zoom, and you'll find that the breakouts, people really enjoy the breakouts. So I'm going to do a better job of preparing people in advance for that. That's my learning. Kristen.
Yeah, I have a presentation coming up in May, and I just started, well, I didn't just start. Last week I started writing everything. So yeah, it's supposed to be 20 minutes. And when I read through it out loud, it was 48 minutes. So
Okay.
this, the 7 points or the 7 things that you had is really going to help, especially the core, to narrow it down to 3 things and just discuss those. That's really going to be helpful for me.
Awesome. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. That writing process is really helpful in getting your thoughts out. But yeah, when you need to look at like your whole presentation right in front of you, it's so nice to have this one sheet where you can just see where it's going. Absolutely. All right, let's hear from 2 more. Sybil, did you raise your hand? Okay, Sybil, then Delia. Oh, you're on mute, Sybil. Sorry. Gotcha.
All right. Is
There
that
you
better?
are.
I've been doing public speaking for about 20 years in, I do classes in schools, in adult education classes. And first of all, you help bring back some of the major points that I kind of waved to over the years. And then if people could talk about where they teach, what opportunities out there. I teach 2 different types of classes. In the fall and the winter, I teach how to publish a book, and I have all these examples here of good, bad covers, this on and on and on. So I don't have to have a speech per se. I have all these examples. The second class in the spring, remember, I write fishing books. So I teach how to fish Twin Cities lakes. And in that case, they make things to go out and make it happen. So it's not just a speech per se, it's making the whole class come alive.
Nice, nice, love it. Yeah, that's, maybe we can have that conversation after we close here. Very good. Delia. Oh, you're on mute too.
Yep,
Okay.
there we go. Okay, so for me, it's been a long time since I've spoken now. It's been like 2 years, and it's a very different format. I'm going to be doing, hopefully, I've got a convention that I've been to and spoken at a couple of times, and they asked me to come again. That's going to be the first time I'll be face-to-face in August. And I'm
Nice.
nervous, but hopefully we'll be able to do it. You know, like one of the things that I have struggled with is that I felt when I first started doing it that I was really out of my depth. Like I felt like I was the most ignorant person in the room, because there would be all these people who are like an expert in whatever, and I'm talking to them at these convention kind of settings, and I was like, what can I possibly have to say that they don't already know? But then I realized that they all thought that too. Wasn't just me. So that made me feel a lot better when I got, so, you know, I tried to make sure that I talked to them outside of the room beforehand. And then I realized, okay, everybody is scared. Every single one of us. And so then it's okay. If I screw up, you know, it's okay. And, you know, if they take away one thing from what I said, that's great. Doesn't mean that every word out of my mouth has to be, you know, gold from heaven. I've said one thing that they
Exactly,
and it's okay.
Exactly. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we really have to check ourselves, because all of us is smarter than one of us. I believe that wholeheartedly. I will never be the smartest one in the room. I will never be the end all be all. And if you ever get asked a question that you can't answer because you simply don't know, throw it to the audience. That is the number one best way to say, hey, that is an amazing question. Who here can answer that? You'll be surprised. The audience will definitely pitch in on that. So use your audience as, think of them as a partner. Don't think of them as somebody, as I've been to a training scenario, a seminar before where the speaker was talking to us like we were all idiots. And I thought, it's unfortunate because that person, the speaker, thinks that they have all the answers and that none of us have ever done it right or have done it before. And it's a way to divide and build a wedge between. Instead, let's think of each other as partners. Like, I'm thinking of you as people that I could work with and that I would have fun with. And that makes it easier and more fun for me to present. So thank you very much for sharing that. Any last words? All right, Phyllis, we'll end with you.
Someone earlier mentioned Toastmasters in the chat. I just want to give out a plug that that's a great place to practice. And there are people there who would help. You can get a mentor, or you just help. They also evaluate and they give suggestions on how to improve your speech. And we've had different people in the group that I'm in who had a professional speech to give and practiced it like 3 times. And we all gave opinions of, how you could improve. And then they gave it and their boss was like, whoa, that's the best speech you've ever given. So it's, one way to get over being shy is the confidence of speaking and speaking in front of people who won't laugh at you, because we all make the same dumb mistakes. So, and we're all learning together.
Love it.
So
Thanks,
talk
Phyllis.
to me or whomever else posted if you want about Toastmasters.
Great suggestion. Thank you for sharing. All right, Jennifer, I'm going to pass it back to you. Thank you, everyone, for your for your understanding for this presentation and for your participation.
Thank you, Sarah. Are you willing to stick around for a couple questions?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, let me start first. Everybody keeps talking about Toastmasters, and obviously I've heard about that for a long time, but are they all virtual now, or are they back in person, or what? Does anybody know?
They're virtual. I think like we are virtual. We've got people from around the country now, like Florida and Arizona, who's on our club, just like this. They're part of our meetings. There's some people who are doing hybrids. I don't know if anybody's completely virtual or not, but right these days, it doesn't matter where you are because of Zoom. And, some people, we're learning how to give speeches sitting down, just like Sarah. She's used to standing up. Well, now we're sitting down and getting up close to the screen so people can see us. And we're learning, and eventually we're going, the plan is, I'm sure for our group, and I'm sure for all groups, is to eventually go live once we're done with this virus.
All right, so I know Nate has been gathering the questions that were in the chat. I put a few in myself, so I'll hand it over to Nate to handle the questions.
Sounds good. We only had a couple come through that haven't been totally answered, so I'll start with, I guess what I think might be the biggest one. Does your advice change when the talk is taking place over Zoom or in person? Kind of dovetailing off of our last little discussion there.
It does a little bit. As far as how to prepare and things like that, it doesn't change. However, your approach with your audience on Zoom ought to be more direct. I didn't do a good job of that tonight, but typically I will say, normally I will just go right out and say, hey, Kelly, what do you think about this? Or Colin, how, and I did use some names tonight, but being more direct, making sure that if you ask a question, you say, raise your hand if you this, or asking for feedback, but telling how do you want that feedback is a little bit of a skill that you kind of have to grow, because in person, it's just a lot easier. People will just, blurt out what they think. There's not as much coaxing. And tonight, you got to see a little bit of that, but I didn't do a lot. I mostly asked for volunteers and said, I would say, let me hear from 3 of you. So you would know, okay, what's happening here.
Cool. The next one also kind of dovetails back. Kelly asked for if you have any places or organizations that you recommend for getting experience. And obviously we talked about Toastmasters a bit, but if there's anything else that you would suggest.
Chambers of commerce, places that like Rotaries, places that gather, associations are great. There are a lot of meetings everywhere. And here's something that a lot of people say, well, how do you get a speaking gig? One of the best ways to do it is to, when you introduce yourself, to say, I'm a speaker. And maybe you say an author and a publisher and whatever else you want to say, but to make sure that you share with people that you're a speaker. And it feels, at first, if you don't do a lot of speaking, it feels a little incongruent, but they put you, when they meet you, then they hear that and they'll say, oh, what do you speak about? So be able to talk about what it is that you talk about. And then you'll be surprised at the opportunities that arise just from being thought of in that way.
There we go. I muted myself too. Here's another one that just came in. What about when you are talking on a group or a panel? What Delia has experienced is not really knowing the specific questions that will be discussed so much as just the topic. Do you have any tips for helping with that sort of a situation?
It's a great question. Delia, when it comes to panels, a lot of times they'll have some questions already outlined ahead because the MC doesn't want to come up with questions on the fly. So I would definitely press them for these questions in advance. However, if you do get some questions that you weren't prepared for, having a little bit of a structure around how you might answer is helpful. So let's say you get asked a question, it could be anything, but you're like, I could answer this 20 different ways. Having context is key. So you either have to ask a question to get more context. So, are you asking that question because, this or that, or what kind of context would be most helpful for this question? Or you have to create your own context, which sometimes I'll go with the past, present, future sort of structure and say, just create a mini presentation on the fly and just be like, well, in the past, I've always done it this way, but right now I'm kind of sitting here. And in the future, I really think it's going to be helpful to blah, blah, blah. So you kind of have this mini presentation just by going with a 3-part structure like past, present, future. Does that help? Do you have another question?
Well, what I have done, and I don't know if this is okay or not, what I've done is, that's a great question, but what about this? And ask something else that I know a lot about. So then I can talk about that and kind of shift the subject. Because if I really have no context for what they're asking me about, I'm like, I don't know.
That's a great strategy. Just kind of deflect it to where you want to go. Absolutely. I mean, if you can pull it off, do it.
Okay.
You could be a politician if you could.
Nice.
Okay, I think just one last one here. And this is again from Jennifer. How can you plan to fill a certain amount of time with the presentation if you've got certain time constraints to work in?
Great question. And I'm not going to deflect, Delia. So that 7 C's framework, if you take a look at each of those boxes and you were to, let's say you had an hour-long presentation, the way I look at it is the core takes about half of your presentation. So that's 30 minutes. If you've got 3 core ideas, that's 10 minutes each. So if you've got that, boom, done. And then you've got the rest of the C's. So the rest of them equal a half hour. So it almost works out to 5 minutes each section. I hope you're following me because I'm talking really conceptually. Yeah, so you can use these boxes on the 7 C's to really time out what you're doing. And I like to practice or prepare each section on its own. So some presentations, I might prepare the close first, or I might prepare the core first. It doesn't have to go in, succession 1 through 7. You don't have to do it linear. You can do it whatever pieces make sense for you first. But to really go at it in sections and parts is really helpful in preparing and figuring out, okay, it takes me 5 minutes to talk about this one thing. And then it takes me 10 minutes to talk about this. So then you're adding it up and you're going, okay, this is an hour-long talk. And I like to build in activities so that I can accordion. Like I feel like my presentation can accordion based on the activities I've got. I can ask you to put it in the chat, or I can open a discussion based on how much time I have.
I feel like the activities is a great tip because it seems like if you're maybe running a little bit too quick or you need some time to kill, that would be a good time filler.
Yeah, absolutely. You can give people a lot of time to talk, or you can, shorten it up and just ask for three people to respond. Tonight, I had 3 areas where I wanted to do breakouts, and based on the front end of my presentation where I killed a lot of time trying to get my PowerPoint up, and the Zoom not working the way that we had hoped with the breakout, it just kind of like, okay, let's pivot, let's do it this other way. And it worked out. I thought it worked out fine. You are an exceptionally caring and nice group. I could tell from when I joined early. So I was like, okay, I'm in a group of friends. I don't have to feel like I'm being super judged. So
Well,
that's
and you were very gracious and showing us how to kind of, as we called it in the theater, vamp. Da, 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 da. As something was happening, you showed us how to be very gracious about that. Because these days when you're using technology, 9 times out of 10, something's gonna.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. That is so true. I don't mean to scare you. It's not to be, scary, but you can only control so much. And then at some point you just have to be able to say, you know what, we're gonna try something else, or go with it.
That song, give him the old razzle dazzle, razzle dazzle.
I love it.
You did great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. My hope is that all of you, when you have an opportunity, that you say yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I just had one more thought that I wanted to comment. I loved that idea too, that you shared that in the one pager that you would use to refer to and look at your speech, you could even use an image, or it doesn't necessarily have to be words or notes. And like, I'm so tied to words and writing and blah, blah, blah. It's mind blowing to think, yeah, I could just have a little image that triggers my memory.
Yeah. So for example, I did a presentation multiple times where I would start the presentation by asking everyone to stand up straight and put your shoulders back. And I would make the point that my mom would tell me this 1,000 times, if not more, when I was growing up, because I'm 6'1", and I was not standing up tall and putting my shoulders back. I'll tell you that. I was trying to hide and shrink, and the whole idea was that you know, when you posture your body and you stand in a confident manner, you will actually start to send chemical signals to your brain that you are confident. So that small little thing becomes my opening, and it's something that people, you know, get a little energized by, and it's captivating. But the whole idea is in my 7 C's, that whole, like that little section where it said captivate, I would just draw a stick figure of myself standing up straight and shoulders back. I mean, nobody else would know what that meant. But when I looked at that and I maybe put some like 2 words to it, I knew exactly how I was going to start, and I never had to. I mean, of course, I tried doing it different ways each time, and it never came out the same twice. And that's really important. Every time you practice, it should come out different. That's because you're creating multiple neural pathways in your brain so that in the moment you can pivot, in the moment you can be present, you can be sharing the message and the point without having to memorize one specific path.
I think we had wise mothers, because I was 5'10" when I was a kid, and being the tallest one in the class was sometimes kind of hard, but she refused to let me wear flats. She kept saying, be proud of your height. And it was a long gift she gave me.
Love it. That's awesome.
I'd like to make one more comment on how you modeled for us tonight in your PowerPoint. You had a really, really striking image and then not a ton of words.
Mhm.
And what I haven't done any speaking for a long time. The last time I did it was for 1 million cups. And that's another, I just thought of this, but that's another great place to practice 1 million cups. And we can talk about that later. But I presented at 1 million cups, but I set my PowerPoint with timings because I talk too much. And so the image, like you said, Jennifer, the image was what triggered my neural pathway to know what I was going to talk about when the dang slide changed, you know, without me changing it. So the slide changed after what, like 2 minutes or something. It's like, oh yeah, now I'm talking about this. And then the next slide changed so that I stayed, because they were very specific about, we had like, I think it was 11 minutes for that presentation for that thing. So the timing worked, the very brilliant image. Of course, I thought I chose brilliant.
Oh,
images.
yeah.
But you modeled that for us tonight with the really good images and the few words, not a ton of words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any chance to use fun pictures, I do it.
That's something I coach a lot of people on when I do presentation design work, because people tend to want to script themselves in their PowerPoint, and then they're reading their screen and their audience is reading the screen and nobody's listening and nobody's looking. And that's a tough thing. So getting back to that point about, you know, what you're really there to do, if it is to convey information, I always tell people, have a supplement, have a handout, have something they can download. Don't try to cram it into your slides, because they're not going to see it anyhow. So,
Right.
yeah,
Very
and I would echo what Kelly said. I mean, you demonstrate, you practice what you preached very well.
Yay. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments? Well, Sarah, I was curious, do you always speak about speaking, or what do you speak about usually?
I speak about speaking a lot, and I'm also a fan of confidence. So I'll end up talking about confidence, executive presence, some topics around basically how to show up your authentic self. Yeah.
Very cool.
I just want to add that I'm really looking forward to seeing the video of this, the recording. I had another class from 6 to 8, So I'm
Yeah,
just
Holly, I
checking.
saw your message that you were gonna look for the video, so it's funny to see you pop in here now.
Yeah, well, it ended at 8, so I thought, oh, maybe they're still going.
Well, Holly, you're gonna have to skip past the first 10 minutes or so.
No, we'll just post it from when you start, don't worry.
Okay, good.
Totally fine.
We
I
might
keep
even have to,
telling them-
we'll cut out the breakout room part too, maybe.
I keep telling them that I look forward to it.
I appreciate your editing.
I'm curious, what happened with the breakout rooms? Because it worked fine for me. I don't
Oh,
care.
we had like 10 people that it didn't actually get into a room and
Well, I think it was my fault. I've never set that up before, and I think I probably set it up with too many rooms because then there were people, some were by themselves. I think that was the biggest problem.
okay. I
Next
thought you
time-
did you did
Well,
pretty dang good for
yeah.
your first shot.
I'm always willing to try something on the fly, but next time, I'll practice and do better if we're gonna try that again.
Well, I think it was interesting that even we could get to that, because I wasn't even sure that that mechanism worked. I knew the button was there, but so that was cool. So we did learn something out of it, even if it didn't seem to
Fantastic.
work.
Yeah, next time you meet, you'll have to make it a goal to break out into little small groups and have a question or something that you talk about.
Well, that's true. We don't use that feature, and we probably could use it for some pretty cool things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fun.
It is nice for networking because it's, it's like sitting at a table with, 2 or 3 other people. You can just have a quick conversation.
Yeah, so I didn't say this in my presentation, but I wanted to bring this up. And one of the things that people often say to me is I'm an introvert. So almost like that's an excuse for me not to speak or to do presentations. And some of the best speakers I've ever known have been introverts. So if that was your excuse, it's no longer your excuse. Introverts make amazing speakers because they do all the prep work in advance. They enjoy the quiet time, the downtime, the thought process, that kind of thing, and preparing. And that just, makes it harder for extroverts because, they get really good at
Like ad-libbing, probably.
ad-libbing. Yeah, good. Yeah, they do. They get really good at that. And maybe don't always plan everything out like they could, but there's space for all kinds of speakers.
May I speak as an introvert?
Yeah.
He's actually written a book called The Introvert Learns to Fly, because it took me about 20 years to learn how to talk in front of people. But even now, I had to give a talk not too long ago at a conference, and I had 3 nights of sleepless nights before that meeting. And then after I gave the talk, I had about 3 nights where I couldn't sleep thinking about what I should have said. So introverts can kind of conquer the problem, but it just really eats up your insides. It takes a lot of effort for.
Yeah.
You need some major downtime afterwards, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I need to have like time alone before the thing and then afterwards to like make up for it and recharge myself.
Yeah, and that's, there's nothing wrong with that. So just knowing what you need is half the battle with that. I appreciate you sharing that. Ron, what was the name of your book? Say it again?
Oh, it's called An Introvert Learns to Fly. It's sort of about my career. I started off, I gave my first marketing pitch. The marketing guy who was with me said that was the worst marketing talk I have ever seen in my entire life. He said, we've got a lot of work to do here. But towards the end, I was a VP and I was talking in front of 200 stock analysts and stuff like that. So, you can learn the skill, but it's always painful for me.
I've heard that referred to as the introvert detox. So going to a conference or something like that, an introvert just needs that time to just quiet back down. And if you don't allow for that, and that's actually an issue I've had with in-person conferences that are, they're basically scheduled from 6 a.m. till midnight or whatever. You're on all the time. You don't have that detox time.
Right. And, you go to those things and everyone is like, okay, let's go out now. My former business partner, Randy, would want to go out and listen to music when we were out, on business trips. And I'm like, are you nuts? That quiet hotel room up there, that's where I'm going. And I'm like an ambivert. I'm not an introvert and I'm not an extrovert, but oh, I needed that detox time. But he'd go out, listening to music in Los Angeles. And I was like, he got energy from that. That was, people are so different.
Right.
I wanted to mention one other thing. I'm trying to do something I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do, which is I want to send a thing out to my 600 mailing list, which is basically kind of like a book report. So I read this book about genetic code manipulation called The Code Breaker from by William Isaacson. And I was like so enthused by this that I've decided I really want to write, may have like a 15-minute talk where I describe what's in there and all the implications of it. And so what I'm trying to do is have a Zoom meeting with myself. So I'm the only one there. I screen share, so my slides are up, but my face is on the side. And then I save the whole screen and make it as a movie that I can edit and put out. So for those of you who are on my list, like Sybil and Paul and a couple others, it may actually, oh, and Phyllis, yeah, I might want to send that to you before I send it out to the 600 people to see how it works out. I mean, the technical stuff is bad enough, but
how long is the talk going to be?
I think it's about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes long. So it's, it's not, it's mostly just because I think people need to know what's going on in biology right now. I mean, we've kind of crossed some line where we can start redesigning humans and plants and everything kind of at will. It might take 50 years, but we should all be aware of what is now possible. And scientists are going slowly because they realize that it's dangerous, but it's really going to change things in the next 50 years. So.
Wow, that sounds like one of the organizations I belong to. They put out micro learning segments. So it makes me think of that, Ron, like it's a micro learning. It makes it less intimidating. It makes me think, oh, I could learn something in 15 minutes.
I might be able to use, I mean, it's kind of like having a blog. Maybe if this works out really well, I might just from time to time put out something that really is important to me and make it as a movie, which is a little more catching, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You could start your own YouTube channel, Ron.
Yeah, putting it on YouTube is one of the options, and I don't know.
Did you know there's a new thing on Zoom where you can, if you download your PowerPoint and when you go to share your screen, there's a thing that says it's in beta, but then you'll appear like a little Ron mini-me in the bottom of your PowerPoint when you're sharing your PowerPoint.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way this would work too. It's like when Sarah was doing her talk, her face was off on the side.
Yeah. Well, in this way, you are like the whole screen is here, so you don't have that little side thing, but you show up like waist to head as like a little mini person down here, like you're actually the presenter. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
We just discovered it by accident the other day.
I love that.
Oh well.
I'm gonna have to check that out, Kelly.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I've seen that in other tools, but I've never seen it in directly in Zoom. So that's a good tip.
They never tell you when they put new stuff in here, and it just appeared the other day and my partner goes, "What is that? Click on that one." So we clicked on it and she's like, "Oh, there you are. You're like a little mini Kelly." So you just never know what happens.
Kelly, what did you call it again?
So when you go to share screen,
yeah,
and then you go to advanced and it says slides as virtual background.
Cool.
I know, it is kind of cool. And it sounds like it would fit perfectly in with that stuff you're talking about because it's kind of magical.
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting what you're talking about.
Oh, I see where you're saying that, Kelly. I see that. That's pretty cool that they have that option.
Yeah. The only thing you have to do is you have to like download your entire PowerPoint. So it's you know, down, it's a PowerPoint, but not on, like, not in your browser, but on your computer. But I mean, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
And then you can record it. It's cool.
Well, any last words from anyone? Anything else for Sarah tonight?
Sarah, you were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everybody, for being amazing too. Thanks so much. It was fun. Great to meet you.
And you know, Sarah, I can probably put your link when we post the session notes. Would you want that? The link that you shared with everybody? Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take off. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.